Today in the show, it's part 1 of a 3-part special of the history of Superboy Kon-El. If you didn't know, for years, he actually hated being called Superboy and he was the hero of Hawaii, then this show is for you. So Superboy is actually a clone made by the company Cadmus, and he was made using Superman's DNA. He was actually made to replace Superman after the death of Superman. He was artificially aged to be about 15 or 16 years old, we're not sure on the specifics around that time. And he was also artificially given all the knowledge that someone that age should have, but before he could be completed, aged to adulthood, and then be placed under mind control for the rest of his life, he was actually broken free by the Newsboy Legion. It's actually around this time that he'd get his iconic leather jacket. At first, Superboy went by Superman, but it turned out there were several other heroes around this time that also went by Superman, one of them being Cyborg Superman. So the media took to calling him Superboy, which he hated. But he was very honest in that he wasn't the original Superman, like everyone thought he was. So Superboy has the threat of all of these other Supermen competing for the mantle of Superman, but he also has the threat of Cadmus trying to track him down. But in a weird twist of events, Superboy was an attention seeker. He loved attention. He was always grabbing the media's attention to look at him. So in a weird way, this helped him be recognized as Superman like he wanted, and it also stopped Cadmus from going after him, because if he were to mysteriously disappear, then it would raise a lot of questions, and it would catch the attention of Supergirl, who Superboy was quickly growing friendly with. But eventually his attention-seeking and carelessness actually led to the death of a Daily Planet chopper pilot. It's around this time that Vinny Edge hires Stinger to attack Superboy on live TV, and Superboy couldn't defeat this villain, no matter what he did. And Supergirl even got involved, and she couldn't defeat this villain either. So the two of them were just like, fuck, we have no choice but just to protect civilians and then just move on and let this thing do its destruction. This actually caused Hobbs Neck Bridge to fall into the river, and Hobbs Neck Bridge is what connects Metropolis to the rest of the United States. Moving forward a bit, Coast City would be destroyed and Superboy would be imprisoned by the cyborg Superman. Superboy would be able to escape, and he goes and warns the rest of the super family of what's going on, and he tells them Cyborg Superman is evil and he's taken over Engine City. But this is when a Kryptonian war suit emerges from the water, and inside of it is the original Superman. Cyborg would actually launch a missile at Metropolis, and Superboy flies up, clings onto this missile and helps it veer off course. And once Cyborg was defeated, Superboy would actually acknowledge Superman as the one true Superman, and this is when he started to embrace the name Superboy, but he wasn't 100% happy with it yet. With Superman back in action, he decided to go to Cadmus and be like, look, I want you to explain to me exactly who I am and what I am. So Superboy's powers are fairly easy to explain. He doesn't actually have Superman's powers. He has like a telekinetic field that emulates a lot of Superman's base powers. So this telekinetic field gives him super strength, super invulnerability, it allows him to fly, and it allows him to basically be Superman in every respect other than a technical respect. However, a few years down the line, he basically gains every power that a Kryptonian has. He would start absorbing energy from a yellow sun, so it's fine. He becomes just like a Kryptonian a few years later, but at this point in time, he just has a telekinetic field that looks like it's Superman's powers. So this is when Superboy decides that he's going to go and travel the world and build up a reputation for himself like Superman's. He would actually eventually arrive in Hawaii and decides that he really likes it here. He likes it here a lot, so he's just going to stay. So what you need to understand about the Superboy series is that it wasn't progressive in the way the Robin series was. It was very much of its time. It was very formulaic. It was very monster of the week. It didn't have any long-lasting repercussions for the most part. There were exceptions here and there, and we will be talking about those. But for a large part, it was very monster of the week, but it was very fun, and it allowed you just to see Superboy's character. He would actually eventually fall sick due to the clone plague that was affecting all Cadmus clones, but he would quickly be healed. He would help stop the fall of Metropolis. He didn't do anything individually important, but it's important to know that he was there and being there is half the battle. He would meet the Kents, 0 Hour would be a thing, and then it's revealed that 12 other Superboy attempts existed before him, and he was the first successful one, but there was also another one that was able to gain sentience. But it was essentially a bizarro Superboy. It's also around this time that he got a visor that gave him Superman's X-ray vision and laser vision. That's kind of cool. Then he would meet the Legion of Superheroes, which was so exciting because Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes is a Golden and Silver Age comic that a lot of people, including me, really love. So to see the tradition of a Superboy working with the Legion of Superheroes was continued with this new Superboy was fantastic. And because he worked with the Legion of Superheroes, he actually gets a flight ring, which makes him an honorary Legionnaire. And then upon his return, he would start working with Knockout. Superboy had a crush on her, and she kind of had a crush on him, but it was kind of like she was using him the entire time. But they did learn a lot from each other, so their relationship was kind of important. Like, Superboy teaches her how not to die in a fight, and she teaches him how to use his powers in creative ways. He also destroys his visor around this time because he doesn't want to be Superman 2.0. He wants to be his own version of Superman. And then the female Furies attack Superboy and Knockout, and it turns out that Knockout is the lost sister of the female Furies, essentially a criminal. And what's more, just to confirm this, is Knockout would kill a police officer in this battle. Superboy, being very confused, and only a kid, would try to defend Knockout, which pisses off Supergirl, so Supergirl rips off the S on his uniform. But when Knockout tries to get Superboy to kill this man called Victor, Superboy kind of realizes, hey, you're kind of a shit human, so he apprehends her, but his heart was broken because he did genuinely love her in a weird, twisted way. Then Superboy and the Ravers would start. I wish I could talk about it, but all you need to know is that Superboy and the Ravers had intergalactic adventures. That's it. There was nothing long-lasting to it, there was no repercussions, but it's fun. It ran for 19 issues, so it had a good run. And then he would be captured by the Agenda. Now the Agenda start harvesting Superboy's flesh to make more Superboy clones, and they succeed in making one. A guy called Match, who was essentially Superboy times 1000. And it's their plan to make a whole army of Matches to take over the world. Superboy would break free and he's able to defeat the first Match, and then he flies away. But what he's not aware of is the Agenda have actually infected him with a virus. This virus began to break down his DNA, and Superboy needed someone to save him. He needed a perfect DNA clone. The only one would have been Match. When Superman goes to Match and is like, hey, the person that created you needs your help, Match flies away, so Superman goes back and is like, we can't help? So Superboy's friend Roxy actually steps up and is like, use my DNA, it's risky, but it's better than nothing. And it works. Superboy stops dying, but he's gonna be 16 years old forever. Tanner, being a few years older than Superboy at this point, thought about Superboy being 16 forever, and also Superboy was still very immature, and him being 16 forever sort of made her feel like he was never going to mature. So she just breaks up with him because she doesn't want to be dating a kid, which, you know, I think is a fair observation. You know, he might age past 16 in terms of years he's been around, but physically he's still a kid. There's got to be some kind of law there. When he goes back to Hawaii, he would go missing in a storm, and this is when the entire cast of his comic are just written out of the comic. It's a fresh start. He would wake up in the Wildlands, which is like an island of animal men, and he would become friends with these men, and he would help some humans that are trapped on the island escape. When he goes back to Hawaii, it turns out that months have passed since he disappeared, and everyone that he's ever cared about is just gone. So then he's just like, well, I don't have a home anymore. I've got nowhere else to turn to. I guess I will work with Cadmus. And Cadmus are happy to accept him because they've kind of wanted Superboy back in their clutches all along, but this made everyone feel uncomfortable because Cadmus was suddenly being portrayed as the good guys, which they had been for a few months at this point, but still it was kind of like wearing your neighbor's underwear. And Superboy working with Cadmus, he found it okay, but he wasn't happy. Everyone he cared about wasn't there. Even the people that he cared about at Cadmus weren't really around, or they were quickly fired, so he was kind of miserable. And this reflected in the tone of the comic. It wasn't fun to read at this point in time. But not all was bad in his life. You see, he had become friends with Robin and Impulse, and the three of them decided to go camping in the old JLA cave. And this is when they wake up a dormant red tornado, and through a series of events, the three of them form Young Justice. And I hate to have to do this to you guys, but that's where we're going to be ending this part. Don't forget to watch part 2 when it's out next month, where we're going to be talking about his career with Young Justice, his career with the Teen Titans, the time he headlined Adventure Comics, and his inevitable death. It's super effective! Okay guys, that is it for today. So what do you think of Superboy so far? Personally, I love this time for Superboy just because I love that costume, but it gets even better a few years later when he loses the leather jacket. Trust me. But what do you think? Please let me know in the comments down below. And also don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more history videos. And also don't forget to like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, support the show by checking out my Patreon so I can make bigger and better and more history videos. I could make like twice a week. And also don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel. But my name is Faust, this has been Exploring Comics, and it is super effective.